On the 4th of July 2023, two things were celebrated: the birth of America and the birth of the Las Vegas Sphere. It's now been a little over a year since this historical occasion, and it's left me wondering, what's been going on with this big ball? Is this big ball still a huge hit? Well, it has been losing a whole bunch of money, which usually is a bad sign. I know what you're thinking. Spending $2.3 billion on a big ball seems like a great financial opportunity. So what exactly went wrong? From the second I found out about the Sphere's existence, I was in love. I mean, I was mystified by it. Just look at this news report. A giant eye is watching over Las Vegas, but the eye is not a sign that the city is under increased scrutiny. I guess that would be the first thing you think, you know? Is this some sort of demon? Is this some sort of demon that's come down to watch us, to look for our sins? There's obviously an element to it that is pretty incredible. Like, what's going on here? The moon is on the ground. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be up there. Obviously, I'm saying this as a person watching a YouTube video, not if this was where I live. I would not like to see a giant eyeball staring at me from outside my window. I'd probably have to go over there and puncture it with a big needle. Okay, so a few sphere facts. A few facts. The sphere can hold up to 18,000 people. That's pretty incredible. It costs $2.3 billion. I don't know why this graphic says 2.6. Every other article I looked at says 2.3. It's this big, this visual on the screen. It's this big. And in September of 2023, the sphere finally became open to visitors. Everyone was so excited to rush in, but what was really the plan here? How do we, besides putting ads on this big ball, start to make money off of the insides of it? The U2 residency was a huge hit amongst the Sphere community. They sold out 40 dates with over 700,000 tickets sold, which amounts to a lot of money when you consider that the tickets were really, really expensive. That said, the Sphere didn't actually see a lot of those profits. 90% of the box office went to U2. Not to U2, but to U2 the band, which leaves only 10% of the box office to pay for the astronomical operating costs to make this huge machine work. This huge monster that feeds off of electricity. It's safe to say that the Sphere was incredibly displeased by this fact. Most reviews refer to the U2 show as an incredible visual experience. If you could experience the visuals, that is.
There is an overhang over the 100th section. So if you buy tickets for this particular show here, or any show really, and you are in the 20th row or back, you have an overhang that blocks your view of the sky.
First time coming here. I take my seat. Here we go. And wait. What the? I can't see the sphere.
The Sphere is supposed to be this immersive 360 experience sort of situation, you know? Like, it's almost supposed to be like you're being in a VR world, but actually there in person with other people. But if you sit at certain rows, what, you just don't get that? Even if you paid hundreds for your ticket? Maybe they should just not seat people there, or at the very least be incredibly clear that that's gonna be the case. That there's gonna be a big thing over your head blocking the whole 360 view. After U2 finished their residency, it was the turn of the band Dead & Company to rock on, which looked pretty neat. And the next residency is by Hotel California band The Eagles. Now, in case you haven't noticed, there seems to be a bit of a pattern here. None of these bands have a lead singer that's under the age of 60. Obviously, there isn't anything wrong with being over that age. Aging is a beautiful part of the human experience. But if you want your venue to be super relevant, you're gonna have to get some more relevant acts to do a show there every now and again. The main bands that they can get at the moment are ones that are in a bit of a later point of their career. They don't mind just sticking around in Vegas for a little while. It almost seems like it's quite difficult for them to get anyone to do a one-off show in this venue. A big reason for that, I feel, has a lot to do with the visuals. This was one of my favorite bits to look into. They are a nightmare to create. So this beast has a resolution of 16K by 16K. They advertise that because it sounds impressive. It is impressive. 16K is a very big number. I've never seen 16,000 things in general. But you gotta consider the practical side of things here. The process of capturing, editing, and rendering footage in 16K quality is a headache that even binaural ASMR Beats 11 can't solve. In the article, Sphere and Loathing in Las Vegas, God, that's incredible. Props to writer Charlie Wartzel, goddamn, that's a good title. In the article, Willie Williams, another good combination of letters, and the stage designer who's worked as U2's creative director for over 40 years, told Charlie that he wasn't thrilled at the idea of the band taking up residency at a gimmicky Vegas arena. He didn't want to cater to the building instead of constructing his own sets, and worried that the Sphere might overpower the band or make it sound worse. I love that it's almost impossible to talk about the Sphere without referring to it as like a conscious being. Williams talks about how this was uncharted territory for him, especially because at the time that he was trying to make these visuals, they didn't even finish making the building yet. Then there was the screen. Despite the Sphere's 16K resolution, Williams said that the group couldn't build any graphics at a higher resolution than 12K. And even this process was painstaking. The first time Williams' team uploaded an animation for the Sphere, the file was so large that the building's computers said it would take 2 weeks to just render 60 seconds of footage. Which I guess goes to explain why a band can't just like add a tour date in the Sphere. It has to be a thing that's specifically catered for this, that's been worked on for months and months on end. The process of how these visuals are done is pretty fascinating. The Sphere company had to like create an in-house studio to do so, and also work with a different company to create a bunch of technology just for that. Filmmakers or advertisers are using the Sphere's in-house system called Big Sky. Essentially, they manufactured a first of its kind a 16K sensor capable of capturing images at the scale and fidelity necessary for the Sphere's display. Big Sky also allows filmmakers to capture large format images from a single camera without having to stitch content together from multiple cameras. So that's pretty cool. All this does remind me though of the early days of IMAX. I remember going to an IMAX theater for the first time as a kid, and honestly, the experience was pretty amazing. I looked to my left, I saw screen, so much screen, and then I was like, ooh, what about the other side? Look to my right, more screen. Wow. Incredible. At the time, IMAX theaters were mainly playing the visuals that are, you know, kind of creating more of an experience. The idea was just for you to look at it and be like, whoa, that's a big ant. There's like a lot of nature stuff, a lot of nature footage. And the visuals inside of the Sphere seem to be going for essentially the exact same thing. The director Darren Aronofsky was the first to use Blue Sky's technology to make his visual experience Postcard from Earth. Reviews from it seem to be split. Google reviews have an average of 2.2 out of 5, while IMDb has a friendlier 7.6. This article by Common Edge describes the experience. Postcard draws equally from nature documentaries like Living Planet, and from stock footage of cities and commerce that you've seen in AT&T commercials. It opens and closes with an embarrassing fictional frame in which all of humanity has evacuated Earth and has been sent to colonize planets and other solar systems. Because, as we find out, our planet needs to recuperate from the beating we have inflicted upon it. And yes, as many have noted, this is a pretty strange message to project inside a $2 billion dome. I actually tried to watch this thing at home.
Hills of dirt and stone, folded and furrowed.
But then I had to stop because it was really boring. Obviously, seeing this on your phone, the video that was filmed on another person's phone, is probably not the ideal way to experience this thing. I'm sure it's real awesome if you're actually in there in the Sphere and you're looking around and you're like, whoa, look at how much screen there is around me. IMAX, for the first few years of its existence, also really struggled to break into mainstream cinema because of being viewed as this sort of gimmick, but it did eventually manage to make that move. A lot of it is thanks to Christopher Nolan and him being obsessed with it. And now, almost every movie gets its own IMAX release. I saw the new Borderlands movie on IMAX, and yes, it was just as bad, even though the picture was bigger. So, can blue sky technology make the same move? Can it also become a mainstream filmmaking tool? Can I one day hope to see the beautiful visuals of Borderlands 2, a movie that will definitely happen, on the crisp screens of the dome from the Simpsons movie? I don't think so. IMAX theaters are very expensive, don't get me wrong, but they don't cost $2 billion to make. For filmmakers to create actual movies for this, and not just a one-off experience, the place itself needs to also not be that. And, as of right now, it just doesn't really seem like a very replicable business model. Or is it? Let's now talk about the other sphere attempt. A few months ago, people seriously tried to make an orb by the same company all the way in London town. Here are some of the stats about the planned London sphere.
It's due to be 96 metres tall, which is the same height as Big Ben. With a capacity of 21,500 people and a $975 million price tag, it comes in just a bit cheaper than its Vegas counterparts.
As you can imagine, London residents were super excited by this idea. I'll move if they go ahead with Sphere. We don't need another venue. They could do so many other things with the money, things that will actually help the community. And another resident has said, no one wants it here. But, a spokesperson for the Sphere has said, we are fully committed to bringing Sphere to London. Also, I know that it's called Sphere, not the Sphere. It feels really weird to just say Sphere without the, so I'm gonna continue saying the Sphere. We are fully committed to bringing Sphere to London and delivering its many cultural and economic benefits, including creating thousands of jobs and creating billions of pounds for the local London and UK economy. So, you know, there's differing opinions. Some people hate it, and the people who are gonna make money off of it don't hate it. I definitely get the argument that it will bring people jobs and entertainment, and that it kind of looks cool. Like, the stuff on the inside looks pretty cool. I can definitely get that. If it was just that, I don't think people would care as much. I don't think the problem is really with what's on the inside of the Sphere, but rather with what's on the outside of it. Putting residents in a situation where every time they try to look at the sky, they're actually looking at a huge billboard that's bigger than anything in their city. I think that's part of the problem here. There's something quite horrible about this. If once the goal of like big old architecture was to display a thing of beauty, the goal now is to take over the skyline with a goddamn Coca-Cola ad. For a while, there were huge back and forths between residents, the City of London, the Sphere Company. It was actually supported by the mayor of London for a little while. It was actually going to happen. But in January of this year, he seems to have withdrawn support from this. He said that the design would cause significant light intrusion, resulting in significant harm to the outlook of neighboring properties. A real shame, honestly. Let's look at what they missed out on. Welcome to Pinely's favorite Sphere ads of the last year, a weekly segment here on this channel. Sphere fact of the day: the Sphere typically features 3 or 4 brands each day, cycling through each every few seconds for 4 hours of total screen time, which costs $450,000. Okay, number 3, One Piece. One Piece is an anime that a lot of people like. I remember watching it when I was 5, which was 20 years ago, and even if I kept watching it this entire time, I probably wouldn't have been able to keep up with the show. Wow. That's the sort of thing we love to see here on this segment. Number 2, the Formula 1 thingy. I love how the big ball looking at cars. I love it so much. I think it looks so cool. It's can't even keep track with it. What a silly ball. And number 1 for best Sphere ad of all time of this year for this week's segment, you know it. It has to be the big f***ing minion. Has to be the big old minion. You all know it. The big minion. I love the minions. This is my number 1. This is the best one. Don't f***ing at me. This is the best one. Don't even fight. Don't DM me. Don't look at me. This is the best fucking sphere at? It's the goddamn big minion eating another minion. What was really the goal with making the sphere? Besides making money, that is. When trying to answer this question, Paul Westbury, the Executive Vice President of Development and Construction of Sphere Entertainment, that is a long title, man. He said that the overarching objective was to create immersive experiences that engage the senses and transport fans and attendees to a new world. The spherical structure facilitates this, which sounds exciting, but also VR is a thing. You gotta consider it when looking at the prices of this. Going to the sphere is really meant for people who have a lot of money. Here's the ad for the new sphere experience. It's called Anima, the End of Genesis. Ooh, scary as usual. Now, like many of you, I also have no idea what Anima, the End of Genesis is exactly. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. But if you want to buy a ticket for it in December, you're going to be paying a minimum of $247. And at most, you'll be paying $1,230. In comparison, the newest Meta VR glasses cost $500. And with those, you can experience whatever immersive video you want more than one time. You want to experience the video with other people? F it. Buy 2 of them. It's still gonna cost less than that ticket I showed you. I was gonna do a separate sort of segment where I talk about the traffic problems caused by the sphere, but I realize I really just don't have much to say about it. There's a huge ball of light in the middle of the city. Of course, it might end up being a little bit distracting, you know? In their first fiscal quarter back in 2023, the sphere lost a whopping $98.4 million, leading to the resignation of their CFO, their chief financial officer, the person in charge of money stuff. But how's it doing now? Well, according to casino.org, my main source of Sphere-related news, they said, brutal, Sphere loses $104 million in 3 months, relating to this year's April to June. For the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, the Sphere lost a jarring $480 million. But in other news, they state that in the same quarter, the Sphere generated about $15 million from advertising fees, which doesn't sound too bad if you're cherry-picking fun facts. Ultimately, though, Sphere aspired to be making $100 million plus a year from its Exosphere. In response to reports about a different quarter where they apparently lost a lot of money, $83.5 million to be exact, they said back in May that actually they made $12.9 million in adjusted profits. This is like a pretty common thing public companies do when there's a bunch of articles about how they're losing money when all of their financial reports come out. They don't want investors to be scared off, so they go, well, actually, if you move a bunch of numbers around, maybe you can say that we made money. Maybe you can say that. Can you please say that, maybe? And that's the story of the Sphere. For now, one can only hope that as time goes, the Sphere will heal. One can only hope that the Sphere will eventually take over all of Las Vegas. That one day, the entire United States of America will be Sphere. That one day, all of us will be Sphere. What?